Now, the first question I get asked all the time is, Justin, why Japan? And I'll answer that in just a moment, but who here has a smartphone? Typically, most people have smartphones. So what I like to do is I like to throw out this QR code. So if you'd like more information about the project, please feel free to scan that QR code and go to japangospel.com. We have a nice newsletter that comes out every single month showing the update of what the progression of the gospel is doing out in Japan. We have sermons. For the ladies, we actually have recipes from local church members in Japan to share with you free of charge, so you can try some natural Japanese cuisine as well. We got lots of fun things on the website, but now's your chance to go check that out before we get started. Now, before I answer any questions, I would like you to silently just kind of think in your mind, what is the church's one mission as expressed in Luke 19 and verse 10? For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. This is the Great Commission. This is what we were told that every Christian is supposed to do. You can think of this very similarly to a job title. If you are a plumber, you are typically working with pipes. As a Christian, we are to emulate our teacher, Christ. We are to do our best to seek and save the lost. If we are not doing that, we are not doing our job as a Christian. Now, this does not mean that everyone has to go to a different nation. Not everyone has to go to Japan or Nepal or South Africa or Tanzania. You can do so just around the water cooler at work, just with your neighbors. But we all need to be trying to steer those conversations toward Christ in order to seek and save the lost. So, Justin, why Japan? First off, Japan has a population of 124 million people. Now, on the slides here, some of my data is a little old. I believe now it's closer to the 200 million range. Now, if you put this into describable terms, you can see on the map here that we have Japan next to a cutout of California. They're roughly the same size of landmass. But if you take 80% of the population of the United States, from your view, it would be this side. You would take 80% of the population and cram them all into California, you have roughly the population of Japan. You have a wide swath of land full of people. We read in the Bible of fields white unto harvest, but the reapers are few. So this is why. Tokyo by itself is home to over 47 million people, and this is in the span of about 20 U.S. miles. On the Shinkansen, you can get from one end to the other in less than an hour. Very, very quick travel. In fact, if you were to go from the northern tip of Japan all the way to the southern, it's about a 10-hour train ride on the Shinkansen, roughly. So in a single day's time, you can reach almost all of Japan. Think of how many seeds of the gospel that we could spread in that time period. Many, many, many seeds can be spread. It's also the tech capital of the world. I had everybody a minute ago raise their hands if you owned a cell phone. Most of our microprocessors and things are from Japan. But please don't get this wrong. Japan, when people think of especially cities like Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka and other ones, we normally think of tech capitals of the world, a very first world country. But if you go outside of those into the rural areas, the economy is very, very poor. The Japanese yen right now is very weak. Roughly 1,000 yen is about $7 US, give or take a little bit on the day because stocks rise and fall. But the entire country is very spiritually parched. So this is currently a map of where we are working in Japan, all the different areas. We have worked and met with people in Ochanomizu, which is the largest congregation in all of Japan, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We've worked with my brother Nao and his wife Noriko up in Tachikawa. We had the pleasure of meeting Brother Obata-san up in Haruna Church of Christ. This is out in a prefecture called Gunma, and then all the way down below Mount Fuji here in Shizuoka. But where we're going to be stationed as of next May, God willing, if we're able to raise the funding, we're going to be working with 3 different congregations in Yamanashi Prefecture, helping to grow them, helping to restore the gospel in Japan. But there's a lot of work to do because Japan is predominated by 2 false doctrines. They are seizing the entire country, and they are woven very, very deeply in the fabric of their culture over in Japan. The first is called Shintoism, and the second is called Buddhism. Now, who here has ever heard those words? All right, for those of you that don't, I have a brief explanation of what these things mean, just to put it into perspective. Shintoism is the belief in kami, or the Japanese word for gods, or many gods. Notice the denotation of the little g there. They believe that there are gods of the trees, gods of the streams, gods of the parks and rocks, anything that you can think of, they're there. Foxes can be gods, things like that. They have an abhorrent worship of nature throughout all of their culture, and they even have ancestor reverence. Now, what does this mean? Who here has ever seen the old Disney movie Mulan? All right? You know the part where she goes back and she meets with Mushu, and Mushu's, I love Mushu. He carries the whole movie, right? But he's sitting there, the little dragon, and he starts talking to all the dead ghosts of the family. But she walks back into this little pagoda, and she worships and asks her family for guidance. This is what's actually happening in Japan. It seems comical at the start if it wasn't so heartbreaking. Because these people are not praying to the Almighty God who created the heavens and the universe and the seas and the land and everything that we know, but they're praying to their ancestors, grandma and grandpa and great-grandpa and so on and so forth. This is actually happening. They have no concept of sin, even though their culture has an emphasis on purity. When you go and visit temples like this one, the Mononeki Neko Shrine out in Tokyo, you have to go before the shrine, and they have these little cups with a long handle that you would wash your hands with, and then you even turn it up to where it splashes on the handle to rinse the handle off for the next person. Very, very clean. If you've ever seen videos of the Tokyo subway systems when they flood, I know here in the U.S., if our normal streets flood, they are dank and dirty and muddy and gross, and we won't go into that. The Tokyo subways, you can still see the floor through it. It's very, very clean and clear because they keep everything so clean. They have a very strong emphasis of purity, but no concept of sin. All of this belief of Shintoism has no scriptural proof. It's just legend, and it specifically has no scriptural authority. Now, this one here, like I said before, is the Mononeki Neko Shrine. Neko in Japanese means cat. So who here has ever eaten at a Chinese restaurant and seen the little cat with the coin, typically, and his little hand does this? This is where that cat originally came from. The original cat did not have the coin. It simply denoted good luck when they added the coin. But blessings were supposed to flow from the cat. Now, while we visited the temple, I may or may not have come across the Mononeki Neko. I'm being very, very facetious. This was actually a stray cat drinking out of a dirty bamboo water pot. You can actually see up on the stick the algae that's growing. But what you don't see is on the other side of the picture, the large crowd that was beside me taking photos and praying to an animal, a stray animal. And this was taken only a little over a year ago. This is actively happening in Japan right now, and they're not thinking at a level that notes who created the cat. The legend goes there was a samurai that was sitting out on his front porch. It may have just been a feudal lord. I may have gotten that mixed up. But he was sitting out on his front porch, and a lightning storm came through. It frightened him, and a small white cat came up and comforted him. Oh, this must be a god. He has given me comfort and blessed me with comfort. And now they have a whole temple based off of this. That's nonsense. You know, we have a Greek word for that in the Hebrew lexicon. It's called hogwash. They also have this, if I can get to the next slide. This is what I denote to the world's worst Netflix subscription. Who here has Netflix? Hulu, Crunchyroll, Amazon Prime, insert any other, everything's becoming subscription-based now, and I hate it. This is a subscription to your God's blessings. For about 20,000 yen, so roughly $14, $15, you can get these nice little wooden plaques. They're nice, they're heavily lacquered, and you can hang them up there, and they last for 1 year. They definitely don't hang there for a year because they cycle through them, because more people, there's always space on the board for more, right? I think it's very much a money-making racket. But they sell their God's blessings, but they run out at the end of the year. Now, maybe you're a little tight on money. You don't have the money to buy the nice wooden plaque. They have super thin paper ones for about 300 yen, roughly $2 and something odd cents in English money in US. And you can write your wish or the blessing that you want to receive on this piece of paper, and you tie it to a tree, and it lasts until it rains. Because what happens when you put your homework in your jeans and you put it through the wash, right? It gets all destroyed. And the same thing to these God's blessings. It's the world's worst Netflix subscription. But these people are buying into this because they have not heard any different. Moving on to Buddhism. Buddhism teaches some absolutely horrible, horrible doctrine. The first is that life itself is not a gift from God, it is suffering. Something to be suffered through. Oh, but you can stop the suffering by getting rid of your desires. Well, if you stop wanting a good and easy life, you'll stop suffering. What nonsense is that? Desire must be eliminated. Who here has ever heard the term enlightenment? That's what they're trying to achieve. So we have in the historical record the monks that shave their heads, they go a long time without eating, they sit cross-legged for hours in very uncomfortable positions, and they do this in an attempt to eliminate desire. They get comfortable in the incomfortable because they're trying to reach enlightenment. They also teach things like karma. Good things happen to those that do good things, bad things that happen to those that do bad. And while karma is not necessarily a bad teaching, it is 100% false. The world doesn't work that way. It teaches reincarnation, this endless cycle of death and rebirth. You inhabit the next baby body after you die that's recently been born. And if you're lucky, you may or may not retain some memories from your old past life. Again, utter nonsense. There's no way to prove any of this. Not only that, but the idea of reincarnation spits in our God's face. If reincarnation is a thing, why does it matter that someone rose from the dead? We can't have this. This is absolutely wrong. And so they teach enlightenment rather than salvation. Pro tip, who here has ever heard the phrase namaste? Please do not ever quote that phrase to somebody. It literally translated means, I bow to the God inside of you. It treats everyone as their own personal deity, and that's what that means. While it seems nice and kind on the surface, what you're actually meaning and doing is spitting in the face of God. One of the largest Buddhist temples in all of Japan sees billions, with a B, of visitors every single year. This is the Sensoji Temple in Asakusa, Japan. Now, what you don't see is further down, we'll start out behind the camera. You have about 2 miles of rows of good luck shops where you can buy trinkets and blessings from your gods and good luck charms and all these things. It's a giant money-making racket. But as you go through this, and you can kind of see up here a little past, they have a giant Buddha statue that is probably from the floor that I'm standing on here, actually probably where you're standing on, all the way up to the top of the ceiling there at the point. Solid gold behind bulletproof glass, but oddly enough, they have this giant tray about the width of this building here, oddly enough, for everyone to just toss their coins into and ask for blessings. And of course, they have shrine priestesses walking in that area all the time to collect the money into baskets and then bringing it to the back where you never see it again. Again, that world's worst Netflix subscription. And people bow down to these idols. Idolatry we read of in the Bible. And we have this weird disconnect thinking, oh, well, surely that's not happening today. It absolutely happens today. So prominently so in Japan that there's about 7 per every mile of Tokyo. You can walk in the little gutter areas, and they're not all giant and fancy like this. Some of them are just these little pagodas that you can go and worship at with a local deity, and people will set offerings down to it. If you go to the word is leaving me, where you purchase flowers here in the States, typically you can get like the stone garden gnomes and whatnot. We actually have those little pagodas for sale here in the United States. But those little stone things that look Chinese or Japanese in nature, those are actually temples to worship at. That's the denotation of what those actually are. Now the bad news. It gets worse. There is good news coming, I promise, but here are the statistics to give you guys a look at exactly what's going on. Less than 0.5% of all the population in Japan identify as Christian. Now, I use Christian in this term. I'm very specific about terminology. Very broad sense of the term. That is including the idea of Mormonism and Baptist and Catholic and name any other denomination that you want. This is the broad sense of the term, so 620,000 Christians in all of Japan. Only 7% of that 0.5% are anti-denominational. Now, Justin, what do you mean anti-denominational? I've heard of non-denominational. I remember Paul saying that he wishes that we would all be of the same mind and of the same spirit and of the same judgment. There is one Lord, one faith, and one what? Does that leave any room for denominations? How many is there? One. We're not non-denominational. We're not okay with them existing. We are anti-denominational as a church. Because anything that is not the Word of God is wrong. God did not want there to be different denominations. He wanted the same mind, the same spirit, the same judgment. And this is coming directly from the apostles who were inspired by the Holy Spirit. That's roughly 43,400 Christians. Now, as you listen to me up here, from time to time, I sound like maybe I'm getting angry. I promise I'm not getting angry. I'm just very, very into this work. My heart is in it, and I love these people very, very much. So I'm very passionate about it. So please don't misunderstand. Now let's get into the meat of it. We have less than 5 full-time missionaries in the entire nation of Japan. Less than 5 across the entire country. Now, specifically, sound missionaries, those that are teaching truth. The country is littered with false priests and priestesses and missionaries from different denominations teaching things that are wrong. But sound missionaries, we have less than 5 in a nation of almost 200 million people. 50% of those members don't go regularly. Of that 43,400, that's 21,700. That's less than 0.2% of an entire nation. Who here was here during COVID? Everyone should raise their hands. We were all here during COVID, right? It's okay. It's a class period. We can speak up. If you guys have questions, please let me know. The United States is hemorrhaging church members right now. We are hemorrhaging it. We saw a massive decline. If the United States is hemorrhaging church members, Japan is dying on the operating room table. We are losing our foothold. There is roughly 47 congregations of the Lord's Church in all of Japan. Half of them, from what I was told by the historian Aikawa-san out in Chanamizu, only about half of them are sound in doctrine. That leaves roughly 24, 25. The number's probably changed a little bit since then. Most of them have less than 15 members. Chanamizu, remember how I said earlier that they were and they're in central Tokyo. They're the largest congregation in Japan. They have a little over 100 members, 4 elders in the entire nation. They are the only congregation that has elders. That's it. In an entire nation of people. It's heartbreaking to see the condition that the gospel is. And it's not because the gospel doesn't work. I don't know about you, but I serve a God that wins, not one that loses, right? Our God has never lost. And sometimes we open up our songbooks and we'll sing, I know the Lord will find a way for me. I love that song, but I hate the song at the same time. I love to cross out the word find, and I love to write in the word make. Because my God does not find a way. He makes a way, brothers and sisters. I know the Lord will make a way for me. That's roughly 1 missionary out of every, we'll round up and say 6,000 people. The numbers are a little off. Well, Justin, okay, we've heard the bad news. What about Christianity in Japan? How did it originally come into Japan? What is the state of it? We know that the state of it's really bad right now with the numbers. But how did it originally start in Japan? Well, there's some good news. We're actually following in the footsteps of people that gave us a nice foundation to start on. The first is one of the Restoration preachers from back in 1861 to 1953, John Moody McCaleb. He studied at Mars Hill Academy in Tennessee. He's a next-door neighbor. He's one of us. He wrote the song, The Gospel is for All. To one must go, the grace, the gospel is for all. Yeah, wonderful song. Wrote by him. He was one of the first missionaries that we have history of going to Japan. And he actually started the Japan School of Preaching over there. Fantastic. It's actually part of the historical district in Tokyo now, and you can go visit the building. I had the pleasure of going there, but while they respect the individual because of the history that he had, they don't necessarily just respect the doctrine. Now, Justin, how do you know that? I know that because he adamantly preached against the use of instrumental music in the church, and yet they have a piano on both floors. They respect the man, but they're not thinking deep enough to change the doctrine. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change their minds. We're not there to change the culture. Their culture is a beautiful culture. Don't get me wrong. If I had my way, I would follow in the footsteps of Elijah and Elisha. I would burn down every single false doctrine idol there and crumble it into dust and make it like it never existed. However, that's never going to work. Our job is not there to change the culture, it's there to change the minds. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Following John Moody McCaleb, we had Sarah Andrews. She lived from 1892 to 1961. She started mission work at only 24 years old. Now, does anyone know the significance of World War II and what happened in Japan, what we did to them? We dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. All the Americans were told a little bit before the bombs dropped that you should leave the country. She did not. She knew that the gospel message being preached there was more important than her safety from retaliation from the government. And so she was put under house arrest. Which, by the way, the Iowa Church of Christ, which we'll go to in just a moment, she helped build with her own two hands. She was put under house arrest. She became malnourished. If you read her biography, or autobiography, I forget which one is which. But she even talks about having to boil leaves off of her tree for sustenance because they would only give her 1 cup of rice a day. She eventually lost her ability to walk. Thankfully, a military convoy came in and rescued her, brought her back to the U.S. She recovered after about 2 years. Do you know exactly where she went right back to? She went right back to Japan. In fact, she's known for quoting and telling her mother when she objected, she said, "Mom, heaven is just as close from Japan." She wound up being the source that planted 5 churches in Shizuoka. And we see the effect that she had right here. She went from 0 people to all of these. All Christians, all learning the Word of God. She started out with the preacher over there in the kimono, over on the side. She taught him, baptized him. She knew her place, so he started preaching after that, took on the role that he was supposed to. She never broke her role. She never tried to, stand up and be the leader in the church. She knew what God taught. But because of the wonderful work that she did, she saved all these souls. Well, Justin, what about the condition of Iowa now? There's less than 8. Why? Because they're aging out. I don't know if they were not necessarily taught how to evangelize like the house-to-house, heart-to-heart school of evangelism does, which, by the way, is nothing new. We find it in the Bible how to evangelize. It's loving your neighbor. It's writing cards. It's things like that they do. But she had a great impact on these people before she died. She's now buried in Numazu, which is just 1 city over from Shizuoka. Well, Justin, are they religious in Japan? Is Christianity allowed in Japan? I'll give you the quick answer. Yes, Christianity is 100% allowed. There is no pushback from the government whatsoever. In fact, we have the Churches of Christ over there advocating and begging for missionaries to come and help them. But no one's answering the call. Why are they not answering the call? I'll get to that in a moment. I keep saying I'll get to it. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself because I know the topic so well. I'll chase rabbits. Are they religious? Yes and no. So when we say that they follow the teachings of Buddhism and Shintoism, it's kind of a yes, no, maybe scenario. Now, how do I illustrate that to where you can understand what I mean? Being honest about it, what are the first 2 things that come to mind when I say 4th of July? Fireworks and barbecue, right? Let's be honest. Independence is a great answer, but typically it's fireworks and barbecue if we're being 100% honest. It might be backyard shenanigans, There's different things everyone does. But this is the way that they view Shintoism and Buddhism. It's a cultural activity. It's something that great-grandma did. And so when they go up and bow before the statue and ask for blessings and stuff, they're not really thinking at a high enough level. I'm not saying they're not intelligent. They're some of the most intelligent people in the world. Please don't get me wrong. But they are not thinking about their actions and what they're doing. So when they go up to the temple, they'll bow very much like we play the carnival games when the fair comes into town, right? It's just a cultural activity. It's something you do every single year. And so this is the way that their minds work, and we have to learn that. So how do we teach them out of this? John Moody talks about it in his book, Christ, Light of the World. This was written by Moody years ago. He met a gentleman on the road outside of Tokyo. It may have been Osaka, if my memory's probably hazy. It's been a while since I've read it. But he talks about a man that would wake up every single morning, and he would bow to the sun and thank the sun for the sunlight. Is that wrong or right? If you are bowing and praying to the sun, an object of the creation, correct or incorrect? Incorrect. So what John Moody did was, again, our goal is not to change the culture, it's to change the souls. So he says, I think that's a beautiful thing that you've got going on there. I'd love to. Have you ever thought about who created the sun? Well, Mr. Moody, I don't think I have thought about who created the sun. Well, let me introduce him to you. A few weeks following, the man can now keep his same cultural thing that he does every morning. He bows to the sun and he thanks the Creator for the sunlight instead of the creation. Right or wrong? Right. They can keep their culture, but we need to change the souls, the underlying meaning behind of it, because there is a huge difference between worshiping the creation and the Creator. We even read about this in the Bible of one of the men that went to, if my memory serves me correctly, that went to David and said, look, I know that your God is God now, but I have to go back to my country and worship. Please tell your God that when I go before this statue and I'm forced to bow because I don't want to lose my head, please know that I'm bowing before the God of heaven and earth and not that statue. And he says, yes, absolutely. Our God already knows it. Don't worry about it. There's a huge difference in why you're doing something. So it comes to our recent visit in Japan. Again, I told you we went to Shizuoka, Ochanomizu, Tachikawa, and Haruna Church of Christ, which that technically should say Gunma, but I have not updated it. Why did we go to Shizuoka? Well, Shizuoka in particular asked us to help provide them with Bibles. They recently acquired a new family member that came in there, or a new family that joined the church. Praise be to God. There were 2 baptisms a month and a half ago in Shizuoka. These are the first 2 in 40 years. Praise be to God. We worked, and we have recently, Japan Gospel Project has teamed up and partnered with World Video Bible School. They have sent me 6 terabytes, anything that they've ever produced from World Video Bible School online, and they have given me every single right to produce that and distribute it for free in Japan. I just have to translate it. So I have my work cut out for me. It's going to take the rest of my life to get through this. Anyone in this room that knows Brother Alan Webster, most congregations, when you walk out, you'll see these little trifold pamphlets that say, like, what does the Bible say about alcohol? What does the Bible say about depression? How do you get over this? What does the Bible say about this? He wrote probably 99.100% of them. They all say Alan Webster at the bottom. He was one of my teachers at the Memphis School of Preaching. This man is the man that sits there and writes sermons at the stoplight. Yes, we've told him not to. He needs to calm down. This man is a machine, but I have also every single right from him and multiple of my professors that anything that they ever produce, they want me to take free of charge and translate it into Japanese and produce it over there. So we're going to. But with World Video Bible School's help, we were able to provide them with 10 songbooks in English, 10 Bibles in English, and 10 Bibles in Japanese. Now, the average Japanese Bible, if you were to buy them, there's only about 2 or 3 book companies that make them. They are $68 a volume. They are not cheap. So on our website, we have a donation page for Bibles for Japan. Anything donated through there, only used for providing Bibles. World Video Bible School also gave us a projector that we were able to give to them. So now they're not using a little $50 Amazon projector and having to pull down all the blinds and turn all the lights off and squinting really, really hard to see the songs as they're singing or the sermons as they're preached, with the PowerPoints. Now they have the state-of-the-art 12-hour battery, super bright, can work outside even in daytime. They are equipped now with what they need to preach the gospel. While we were there, we stayed with my brother and my sister in Tachikawa. This is Nao and his wife Noriko. Nao is a wonderful worker for the Lord, and he runs the Japan School of Preaching now outside of Tachikawa, which they have this wonderful building there that they were only able to afford because the government bought half the land and built the tram system right here, which is Izumi Tachikawa Station right there. So it's only about a 2-minute walk to the station, not very far at all. This one kind of hits home for me because this is where you can see the detrimental effects of what neglect does. This is my brother Obata-san. I was able to meet with him and talk with him, and if you go to our website and our YouTube channel, we have a 1-hour interview with Brother Obata. We also have interviews with Brother William Adams in Shizuoka and now Fukushima out in Tachikawa. I know there's a bunch of different names and they're scrambled and it sounds like I'm saying gibberish. I understand. But Nao and Obata here did a 1-hour interview with me, and I believe I have the last hour of video that he'll ever produce. I know I probably do. Because last month we lost Brother Obata. He was 83 years old. He was dealing with pancreatic cancer. But he went still at this beautiful building out in Haruna Church of Christ, out in Gunma, 3 hours north of Tachikawa, and he would preach every single Sunday to 2 80-something-year-old ladies. And that's all the church has. He died last month. And now we have 2 80-year-old something ladies still going here without a preacher and still worshiping God the way that they're supposed to. But they don't have a preacher. So they have to sit there and they do Bible studies. Where 2 of you are gathered or more, there I am also. Right? God is still there. God is still working. He is still going good. But they need support. They need help. We are actively, right now, watching the churches of Christ in Japan die because they are not getting the support. But we have a Christian family. We're not dead yet. This is Brother Aikawa-san, the historian over at Chanamizu that taught me all about the history of John Moody and Sarah Andrews and such while we visited there. This is my brother in Christ, William Adams. He's one of the few missionaries that are sound out there. That was at Haruna Church of Christ where we got to interview him. Brother Shinozaki is the local preacher there, so these two work in tandem. He preaches in English and he preaches in Japanese in Shizuoka. So you can get it in both languages. Which another thing that Japan Gospel Project is doing is we're working with Truth.fm. It's an internet-based radio program to where you can listen to these sermons anywhere in the world. So now when we have a Japanese preacher preaching in Japanese, if someone is out in Japan and wants to listen to it, they can from anywhere. It's not monitored by the government. It's not stopped by the government. It's all encouraged, actually, which is very good. And this is one of the 80, I think this lady here is about 83, 84 years old. She's one of the two that I talked about earlier, and she allowed me to take her photo. So the important question, how do we measure success? Justin, I know the question that's probably burning in the back of your minds if you haven't thought about it. Why are more missionaries not going to Japan? And I'm going to be very blunt with you. They don't think it works. Now, why is that? It's because we do not know how to properly measure success. Now, what do I mean by that? Is success in the gospel baptisms? Shake your head like this. That is not success in the gospel. Absolutely not. That is the end result of the success of the gospel. That is what we want to go. But we do not measure the success of an evangelist, a preacher, and a missionary based off of how many baptisms they get per year. You are not going to go to Japan and get 50 baptisms in 2 weeks. Yes, they may do it out in Tanzania. Yes, they do it out in South Africa. Yes, they do it out in Nepal. It happens all the time. How many times have you heard horror stories where they go back a year later and the church building's completely emptied out and no one's there? I'm not saying it always happens, and I'm not saying we don't need to support those works. Those are fantastic works. They need to be done. But we are pouring hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, sending people to South Africa and Tanzania, third world countries. You can spend $100,000 going out to a remote, rural location with 20 people out in a village that doesn't have water. And those are fantastic works, don't get me wrong. So how do we measure success? Let's look at what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 3 and verse 6. I have planted, Apollos watered. Who gave the increase? Okay, so then neither is he that planteth anything, neither is he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Now, based off this, is it bodies in water that we measure success or seeds planted? It's the seeds, right? How many seeds do you think that we can plant in an afternoon in Tokyo just handing out flyers? 147 million people last time I counted. You can pass out a whole lot of flyers. You can talk to a whole lot of people. Remember what he said in another book? I see fields white unto harvest, but the laborers are few. That is a fantastic definition of what we see in Japan right now. So we need to reorient ourselves onto what it means. Because unfortunately, a lot of the congregations that support these places monetarily with their money, they think, well, we've been supporting them for 5 years, but they haven't had a single baptism. Let's move that money over to the South Africa project because he comes back with 50 every single week. It's not a good mindset to go. These people need it just as bad. I mean, let's be fair. They both need to happen, right? But we do need to allocate resources. So how can you support the church in Japan? Now we're getting to the nitty and gritty. So here, I'm going to be very blunt and very honest with you. So please, listen close. Open your ear holes. First and foremost, support and prayer. Let me be very blunt. I do not care about your money. I do not care about your money. Money is not how we win this. James 5:16 says, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man, what? How much progress do you think we'll make if I can gather the fervent prayers of many righteous men from many congregations throughout this entire year as I go and speak and try to get support for Japan Gospel? That is going to be very effectual. But unfortunately, whenever we get to the next slide, we have a whole lot of brothers and sisters in Christ that like to grab their wallets and they hold onto it really, really tight. I like to do this exercise because I have to remind me of this all the time. I like to hold up my wallet, and typically I'll ask the congregation to hold out their wallets. Go ahead and pull them out and hold them up. And I don't see my wallet here. I don't know about you, but it's not your wallet. Everything in this billfold, including the billfold, was given to me by who? God. Can we ever outgive God? No. And that's not just saying Japan Gospel Project. That's any work. That's going to the collection tray every Sunday. We are stewards of His money. The house that we live in, the car that I drive, the money that's in my bank account right now, none of that belongs to me. Everything belongs to God. So the question becomes, am I being a good steward of that money? God loves a cheerful giver. We don't need to be miserly. So yes, I'm asking for financial support. Now remember what I said last slide. I do covet prayers more than monetary support, but we have to have this. I cannot go over there and live in Japan with the local laws and the visa laws and things like that the way they sit right now. So I broke it down in a way that you can understand, and hopefully it makes sense. We are looking to purchase a home base in Japan. Now, Justin, why? It's because as a foreigner renting, we have about 10% of all properties available to us to be able to rent. And we have to pay triple the taxes because of foreigner tax. Most people won't rent to us because we're either not Japanese, don't speak the language all that well. I'm about an N1 right now on a scale of N0 to N5. So I know enough to be dangerous, right, and order food and ask where the bathroom is. That's about it. And if you have a child or a dog, which we have both, it's 3 strikes, you're out. You can't rent typically. But then you have to worry about evictions. You have to worry about price hikes. You have to worry about all these different things going on. Now, I looked up the statistics for buying apparently in this county, you can't buy a 1-bedroom home. I always look for the 1-bedroom home statistic, as cheap as I can possibly go. But a 2-bedroom home here, does anybody have any guess or idea how much it costs in this county, how much it is to buy a 2-bedroom home? I checked last night, $380,000 for the average 2-bedroom home right now. You know, in Japan, I can get a 3 to 4 bedroom for only $80,000. Is that being a pretty good steward of God's money? That's a deal and a half. Now, Justin, why do you need 3 or 4 bedrooms? Can't you get by with less? Yeah, absolutely, but where am I going to put all the printed materials and the stuff that we're translating? Where are we going to host other missionaries that we want to get their feet wet and help them get off the ground and preach in Japan? We need a stable home base, and that's one-time support. One time, done. 10 congregations, $8,000 each. You want to break it down even more? If I can get 20 congregations, $4,000 each. You spend more on AC typically per year in a building than that. I know congregations that spend more taking the preacher out to 8 every single year than that. And this is one time only. We have over 1,800 churches of Christ that are sound in the United States. We're asking for less than 1% to jump in and help. It's a permanent base for mission work. It removes the rent burdens, and it enables long-term stability, because when my wife and I and my son move over there in May of next year, God willing, we are going to die there. We're going to spend the rest of our lives committed to this work as much as we physically possibly can. And my little son, my little 11-month-old son, he's my secret weapon. He's a preacher. He just doesn't know it yet. See, he gets to be raised in the school system. He gets to be more Japanese than I will ever be, and we will always be Gaijin. We will always be English. We will never be Japanese. But we can become respected in the community. If you go to Shizuoka today and you mention Sarah Andrews, everyone knows who she was, because she was a pillar of the community. She was a pillar and a great example of what a Christian should be and how a Christian works. And all of those actions pointed directly to the God that taught her. And that's what we have to do. Monthly support. We have to have monthly support from individuals or congregations. We need to have roughly $3,000 per month. The average Japanese salaryman living in downtown Tokyo can survive very pleasantly off of $2,000 a month. That's enough for my family out in Yamanashi, because Yamanashi is cheaper than Tokyo. Well, Justin, what about the extra $1,000? You said 2. You're correct. We want the ability to be able to, A, have an emergency fund, and B, have money to be able to print all these materials. Those things don't come for free. We've got to spend hours translating. I have to spend the first 2 years of my time in Japan not only working with the 3 congregations, but with a translator while I go through language school, so that I can get up to an N3 or an N4 and I can properly preach in Japanese. But then I can spend the rest of my life translating, going and teaching. And yes, we are partnered with House to House, Heart to Heart. So I've went over and I've worked with Rob Whitaker from the House to House School of Evangelism, where I work with Collierville Church of Christ right now, and we're teaching our congregation how to evangelize. Typically, the statistics here in the U.S., you can have a church double its population in about the span of 7 years. Now, when you're only starting with 15 people, it takes a while for that. It could take 7 years. but it's still working. So we're going to go around to all these congregations and use Rob Whitaker's plan, and we're going to teach them how to evangelize, how to stand on their own 2 feet, and how to spread the gospel. So now we don't come into the same problem where they're aging out and dying out in Oiwa. We need to make sure they know what they need to know, because you can't do what you don't know how to do, right? But we also have to remember the Japanese people. They don't care how much we know until they know how much we care, right? We have to have this for maybe a maximum of 10 years, because with the visas there, you have to apply for permanent residency. I cannot have any other income for myself while over in Japan except for church donations, or I'm breaking the law. And God tells us, obey the law of the land, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, unless it goes against God's word, right? Because God is the authority holder here, not the U.S. government or anywhere else. If we work together, even by your prayers, we can turn the land of the rising sun into a land of the risen sun. We can do this. It's absolutely possible. We still have a foundation in Japan. There are still roughly 47 congregations that can be taught, that can be helped. But we got to get more missionaries over there. And my wife and I, we're selling everything that we own, and we are fully committing our lives to this work. But we need help to do it. So I'm not sure where I'm at time. I'm pretty sure I've went over my time. I'm still good? All right, so we'll open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions about the work? Any comments? Philosophical meanderings? Yes?
Will Megan be going to language school too?
She will be. With the rising costs, and because we have our child, she'll have to go after me. So I'll spend 2 years in language school. I'll try to teach her as much as I can while I'm going through it. And then the idea is to get her through language school as well. To my assumption, I know that the language school in Shizuoka is roughly $5,000 for half a year or something like that. So there's cost associated with that as well. So we're going to incur random costs and things like that. Our goal, our stretch goal, going back to the graph that I showed earlier, was we would love to see over that number. I would love to see 100,000. Because that gives us 10 for an emergency funds, because you never know what's going to happen geopolitically, right? Something could happen and we could be forced right back over here, but we're not giving up. That's the important part, right? But then the other 10,000, that's a year worth of language school. And if we don't use the 10 from the emergency fund, we can use that for Megan, right? And so we can both get into and then she can help me translate as well. And our son, when he gets old enough, he's going to be raised in the Japanese school systems. He'll be able to tutor me for the rest of my life, right? He's going to know way better than I will. And so he can help it. That's why I'm going to say he's a preacher. He just doesn't know it yet. He's our little secret weapon, right? Because we're playing the long-term goal, and that's what it takes with Japan. This culture is a very slow-moving culture. Typically in the United States, we have Sunday morning, we have Sunday night, and we have Wednesday Bible study. In Japan, you have 1 hour Sunday. That's it. At any given congregation. We seek to change that. We want to change that. 1 hour spending time is not enough in God's Word. One of the things that I can't, and I'll close with this, that I can't help but think, people that talk about not doing Sunday evening or Wednesday night Bible study, well, the Bible just commands to go on Sunday morning. Our God said, and lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. He is always with us. Now, when the end of the world comes, that flips on its head. He's not with us anymore. We get to be with Him. Where do we get the idea that you're going to want to spend an eternity with your Creator when you don't even want to spend time with Him now? We need to get our minds straight. We need to start thinking about who we love. And I heard it once, and I'm probably going to butcher this saying, but people that come on Sunday mornings, that's fantastic. It's great. They're Christians, right? Those that come on Sunday evening, they like learning. Those that come on Wednesday night too and do all three, they're always trying to study. Those are the ones that really love God. And I can tell you right now, He really loves us. He's opened up His mansion. It's funny, the Greek there, he says, in my home there are many mansions, I think is the King James translation. If you go back to the Koine Greek, that's not what it means at all. It's totally flipped on its head. It's, I have a mansion, and in it are many rooms. Christ even calls us His holy brotherhood, a holy priesthood. We are going to be family members with Him. We're going to live in His house. Why don't we want to spend time in His house now? More people need to think about that. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present the work of Japan Gospel Project. If nothing else happens, please pray for it. That's all I can ask.